All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And today I have an amazing guest, Jena Rodriguez, who is a transformational mentor and business growth strategist. And I've known Jena for quite a while and actually worked with her at some point. So I'm really excited to have her on the show today. Welcome, Jena.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Cheryl. Such a pleasure to reconnect with you. And this is just amazing. I'm so proud of you and certainly excited that your podcast is now live and serving so many people. So it's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about your story, how you became a coach.
Yeah, gosh. I don't know if you eventually fall into coaching or what, no, but it was a conscious choice. Yes, I've been an entrepreneur for 14 years. And before that, I was in corporate America as a controller and consultant. And so I've worked with entrepreneurs for over 20 years. And before that, I was in fashion and makeup artistry. So when you add all that up, it's a lot of creativity and a lot of numbers and strategy, right? So I've got both sides of the brain working, but what's a common thread through all of it has been my own personal life transformation and mindset work and personal development work. And I've been doing that and working on myself, certainly since my teenage years. And so through the different iterations of business, I love business. I love, helping people obviously express themselves and serve people. But I have just found that what's really at the core of who I am is the transformational work and helping people understand their behaviors as well as others. And when we understand our behaviors and our mindset and our emotion set, as I call it, then you have more choice and you have more results that show up because you're attracting the right things and your intentions are clear. And so, yeah, that's kind of the short and the long of it. But once I started, basically I started coaching per se in 2013 when I moved from an agency model. And again, I've had multiple iterations of everything I've done. And that agency was a web and graphic design and branding company. But I knew I wanted to strategize. I knew I wanted to help people understand who they are. And then I moved into coaching. And now it's just a different mentorship that I've moved in. So I think as coaches, we learn as we go. And then we start to teach what we learn. And that's, of course, what I'm up to.
Yeah. And then we pivot.
We pivot, another pivot.
Yeah.
I call them identity pivots because I think we go through letting go of who we think we are in order to step into the next level, right? The next thing that we are. So yeah, definitely a lot of identity pivots.
I love that. All right. So we're talking about kind of who we think we are and how do we step into it. So a lot of it's around mindset. So what kind of mindset did you kind of start out with and where are you now?
Yeah, I think the first thing I had to know is that what I had to believe really is that what I had learned, what I had invested my time and education in, what I had experienced was enough to coach someone else to say, I know this, so, I can offer it to you. And I think a lot of times we dismiss that, we devalue it. Right. And so the first thing, when I was stepping into coaching and being that strategist and helping people in that manner is to connect to my value of it and the value that I bring. And I know that's been a journey for me and watching other experts and thought leaders and coaches and such to go through that journey of, connecting the dots, connecting to the value that you bring and knowing that it's worth an exchange of money. That's one thing I had to get through.
Right.
and not just like free advice. Cause I'm a fixer. I'm like, my nature is to like fix the problem and make it better and, come up with a solution. And so I would do that for free. Right. I do it all day long. And And, and so when you start to coach, I think it's not about the certifications, it's not about the paper, and it's not about, all of that, but it is connecting to all that you are and all that you've accomplished and all that you bring to the table, and being willing to, of course, ask for an exchange of dollars for it. And I think that's what makes coaching and mentorship and the expansion of the result that you bring someone, and if they don't know what they, they don't know what they don't know, they don't know what they may know what they don't know, and then they hire you for it.
Right.
Right. And so if you can be that person that knows what you know, and you can bring that knowledge and expertise and experience to someone else, then you can coach them. And that's the journey I've gone through, especially, it's like where I was trying to connect to those dots, and connect to my value. And then, of course, I get that. And even through all of the pivots that I've gone through, each time, there's a little bit of, okay, I'm reinventing myself, I'm recalibrating my business. And I did that last year. So how do I connect to my value? How do I, show up? And I just had to reconnect to 20 plus years of my own education, my own dollars spent on mentors and coaches and education and such. So when I know that I've invested and now I can take that knowledge and pass it on, it's the flow of money. It's the flow of exchange, right? So somebody can invest in me in order to have that acceleration, that knowing, that knowledge. And it just depends on what you want to coach and what you want to strategize about. But I think that's the key, is that the faster that we connect to the value that we bring and get grounded in all the time and investment that we've spent, the 10,000 hours that we've spent, then we can go show up and be who we are in a much more powerful way. And therefore you accelerate your business and the attraction of the clients you're meant to serve.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like I talk about like an exchange of energy. So it sounds like it's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome.
I'm with you on that. It is an energy.
So okay. So let's get into that a little bit more. So, when we're kind of validating our background and our experience and our expertise, there's a lot of pitfalls that we kind of go into as far as limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
So what do you do, like, if you have a limiting belief? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I've come up with what I call the detachment method, right? And I'll give you access to it for free. Like, you can have access to the 7 steps. But before that, it's about being aware and acknowledging and recognizing what the egoic mind, which is where our limiting beliefs live, and our limitations are the things that stop us, that's where the places we get stuck. And I've come up with 14 ego tricks, right? So they're tricks that the ego plays on us in order to keep us in place. It keeps us safe. It keeps us certain. It keeps us, comfortable, right? And when we're moving into our new coaching business, or just like me, kind of shifting it around, and now I'm leading with something new, I have to listen for what are the signals, what's the ego tricks. And one of them that you just said, around the limiting belief, is that I can't, or a big one, which I think wraps really nicely with this conversation, is what I call comparison. And so that's the imposter syndrome. That's the lack of significance. That's the, I'm not good at, who am I to do this? Like, all of those, that bucket is called comparison for me. And so the moment you wake up and you're looking at Facebook and you notice that, oh, well, they're already doing what I'm doing, or, they've been at it for longer than me. I mean, just any measurement that you start to have in your mind and your limited thinking, then the ego's got you, right? It's like, I have to outsmart my ego. And the way I do that is I start to recognize when the ego tricks are playing. And then that's a signal to go detach the attachment. Because underneath that ego trick, underneath comparison, for example, because that's a big one with business owners, is that there's an attachment to a limiting belief, or to an expectation, or to the resistance of what you might have to experience if you put yourself out there, right? So, so we get to dig underneath and get to the source of what the ego trick is trying to, on a surface level, trying to keep you away from. So it's not the ego trick itself, but the first step is to recognize that you have one, right? That you got a trick going on. And then we get to outsmart our ego, because that limiting belief is obviously just something we've made a decision about. And it can be wrapped around some painful emotion, for that matter. I mean, before we're, 8, 9, 10 years old, we are creating our limiting, what I call belief loops, right? So limiting beliefs. So belief loop, it keeps looping, it keeps in the patterns, it keeps our behaviors the same, and it's unconscious unless we go do the work to find the source of it. And when we discover what belief loop we've got running, and we feel through that experience and that sadness and that, emotion that we attach to it in the first place, and realize that the little Jena, or the little Cheryl, right, is not in charge anymore, and that we are safe and we are capable and we are enough, then we can start to cut the loop, right? And we can start to reframe and really look at what the truth is. And the truth is you are enough. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. The truth is you've been blessed with a gift, and you've been blessed with a desire to help people in the particular expertise that you have. And you shouldn't ignore that.
Right.
But our ego likes to ignore it. Our egos like to take over, protect us. It's our protector, it's our friend, but it's got too much power. We give it too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of it is the, like you said, how you have to show up. Like, there's the fear there. Like, what if I am successful?
Right.
How do I got to show up every day, or there's expectations now out there. And so I think that, it's our own internal, but also kind of external expectations as well.
100%. Yeah. And expectation alone is a resistance, and it's a conditioning, right? It's a condition that we just put on ourselves and in the circumstances. And so when we can identify those attachments, which is also synonymous with expectation, we can start to unpack the resistance, because, and again, this is in the 7 steps, and it helps us reframe, wow, that's something I'm making up. That's something I'm attaching my actions to, my behavior to, my choices, thinking I don't have many choices. And it's simple but complex, and we are complex creatures, but there's some simple methods where we can, kind of crack it open.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And just for those that have gone through training, just to kind of connect this a little bit, we talk about not being attached to an outcome for our clients so that we can best serve our clients. But it's the same for ourselves, not being attached to, of course, it's success, but not being attached to these little things that are going to distract us or hold us back in our mindset as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, honestly, I boiled it down to everything that we suffer around is some form of attachment to the belief loop, attachment to the resistance, attachment to the expectation, attachment to the limiting story, attachment, like everything's an attachment, because if you're not free, if you're not in flow, then there's some form of attachment that's like anchoring you to where you are and trying to keep you in certainty and safety. And it's an illusion, right? It's the elusive part of us. It's the false self. And the opportunity is to come in and be with our clients from a higher self, and an allowance and the flow. And that's where I think the magic is. So yeah, really good.
Awesome. So let me ask you, kind of segues nicely into when you want to call in more, and you kind of have those fears of, well, I've been going along pretty good now, but I want to call in more. What do you do in that instance for yourself?
So meaning you want more results or bigger dollars in your bank account, more clients. Yeah, whatever the result is. Yeah, I always say that the moment we recognize that any external desire that we have, so the more or the bigger dollars or the more clients or whatever it is, whatever that external desire is, that goal, if we don't already have it, it requires an internal resolve. There's something we are blocking. That's it, because it's all available. And so for me, it really does go back to practicing daily the what ego tricks am I playing, and how do I unpack the resistance so that I can get out of the way. Because if I have my ego in the way, it's small-minded. It's not. I always say that if you're focused on, if you're false self-centered, right, ego-centered, if you're false self-centered, you're short-sighted. If you're false self-centered, then you're short-sighted, which means all those big things that you want more of can't be reached or attracted to you, received for that matter, if you're not the container to receive it. And so it comes down packing any resistance, anything that's in the way. And for example, we're in interesting times right now.
Yeah.
And as soon as the lockdown happened, or the shutdown, and I don't use that word often, but that's what they're calling it, the stay home order. Yeah. Right. Choose your words so you don't feel the heaviness of that, because it's not like we're in prison, people. Right. You still got freedom. I went into the doing mode. I went into, so when there's an emergency, I go into massive action, right? Like if there's if the house is on fire, I start going into massive action. And that's egoic. That's our protector. That is what we want to do. So the first week I went into like this crazy, do everything, get everything set up. Like, I can do this and I can serve here and I can talk here and I can do this Zoom. And I was like Zooming myself all over the place. And by 7 days in, I was like, oh my gosh, I am worn out already. This is not sustainable, because it's in the fight or flight. It's right. In your nervous system is actually in fight or flight. It's not receiving. It's like get out of the way. I'm going to take over and make this, fix this problem. Yeah. And so as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, number one, relax, right? The world is not ending. Right. And even though it felt like it, and so when I did that, what came out of that, and then I saw, well, how do I, receive? Because there's been income shifts in our household. I've got, we've lost, I had a whole bunch of events cancel. I mean, things just like changed, right, on a dime. And I know a lot of people are feeling that. And, but what the gift was inside of that contrast and that recognition that I was like running at something that was unsustainable, right? Couldn't sustain it. Then on the other side of it, I kind of went to the all or nothing, like all in, and then the opposite, where I kind of shut down. And I was like, okay, that doesn't feel right either, but I don't know what to do in the middle. Like, I don't know what to do. But what I got was, in being with that scenario and that situation, was the question and the attachment I have to results, to achieving, to doing, to success, to like all of the attachments and stories that I had around that. And I got to open that up, and I'm still in the inquiry to some level, but it's percolating. and the question became, who am I? Who am I if I'm not doing? Who am I if I'm not a result? Who am I if I, don't get results for a client? Who am I without the busy and the push and all that? Like, who am I identity wise, And so my ego wants to be like, come on, get your busy on. And my higher self's like, can you pause so we can actually bring in the big stuff that you want? Yeah. Like, can you just give me some space? And so I know that's a lot, but it's like, the bottom line is, if you're not receiving the things that are outside of you, it's not about doing just 100 million more things. It's not necessarily that. Sometimes it's about getting still. It's about pausing and only doing things that feel good, only doing things that are inspired action. And that is honestly, that's a practice you got to figure out as you do it. Because if you find yourself doing things and they, and you're busy and you're going and pushing and you want to live in that energy, that's fine. But I think the feel good energy that we really want and we're unfamiliar with many times,
Yeah.
is the one that's calmer, that's peaceful, that's like the water's on top, you know, the waves are calm, not, you know, like rough and stormy.
Yeah.
And so I kind of allude to that. I live by the ocean now and I love it. And every time I sit with the ocean, I'm like, there's the wave, there's you know, the rumble on the top of the surface, but underneath the ocean, deep down, is the calm, is the quiet, is the knowingness of what you need to do next.
Yeah.
And what's, you know, to allow all the magic to show up. And we're on top of the surface, you know, the ego's surface, right? And so it's like, we're on top of the surface trying to figure it out and, you know, rush around. And, you know, and I think we've got to sink down a little bit. And that's what I've experienced. I mean, specifically in the last, you know, month or so. But it's been this unfolding of, wow, if I want to receive big things, if I want to attract those things, I've got to be the space for it. I can't keep pushing them away by doing more and more and more. And it doesn't mean I have had 17, actually, I think this is 18 now, 18 speaking gigs in 4 weeks online using Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing, but it's like, it's come to me. I didn't go chasing for them. It's come to me.
Yeah.
And so when we allow things, and then I just got like this amazing Facebook message. I won't say too much, but it's a really big opportunity. I'm like, wow, where'd that come from? Oh, maybe I got out of the way. That's why it showed up. And once I'm more confirmed with it, I can announce it. But
I'm excited to hear that.
I know, I'm like teasing you, but it's like, I was shocked when I read it. I was like, where'd that come from? And it's because I just keep showing up in the space of flow, not in the space of push and go, you know, hustle, hustle, hustle.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I feel what you're saying there, as far as when this all first kind of happened. I did the same thing. I just started doing.
Yeah.
And I was all over the place, and I was doing Facebook Lives like twice a day, and I was just going crazy.
Yeah.
But I got exhausted. I mean, after about 2 weeks, I couldn't do anything. I was just like, I don't even want to do it. Like, I just don't want
done.
Yeah. Not only stay there for like a day, but
yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely understand that. So that's interesting, though, that a lot of people are experiencing the same kind of, especially entrepreneurs, right? We all feel like the helpers. I think it's the helpers. We all kind of feel like, you know, we run forward and we're like, we can do something here, and absolutely we can. But I always talk about the oxygen mask, and I know people probably get sick of hearing me say it, but you have to put the oxygen mask on first before you can help anybody else. And in crises, especially, because there's like you said, it's not sustainable, and we have to create things that are sustainable.
Yeah. Firefighters don't run into the fire without a mask on.
Right.
They put the mask on themselves first, and then they take an extra one to save the person inside, you know, but it's like, they don't run in without the mask on. And so, you know, it's like they put all their protective gear on, and we started, I think that's why you and I both did what we did, is it felt like a fire, you know, like, oh my God, I got to fix something, and, you know, things are shifting really fast, you know, and so that is our protective mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. It's very natural. It's not like, you know, and I think that's what's interesting, is at the bottom line and the baseline of this whole thing is we are human beings doing exactly this, very similar things, and we cope differently, and we have different tools. And of course, that's what my goal is to give people strategies and tools, because I'm a strategist. I like checklists. I like steps, you know, and easy frameworks, you know, because the more I can make it easy for people to practice and have a new awareness quicker, then they can shift their behavior, they can shift their flow or their receiving, you know, ability faster. And, you know, and it's like, on a daily basis, honest truth, you know, I'm on a daily, you know, roller coaster, and today is like, I woke up and I finally, you know, felt like a I don't know, I felt lighter, and I just didn't have all the worry and the heaviness, and, you know, not to say it may not swing back, but it's like, be grateful for those moments and know that you can experience them. And I think that's the other piece really quick, is that, you know, you got to put your oxygen mask on here. And I think the message to be heard is that we create the experience. We create the experience. It's not happening to us. It's not an experience that is coming at us. It's like, turn on your experience that you desire. And if you want one that feels good, turn that one on. If you want one that sucks, you can turn that one on too. And then just look inward at what's going on for you. What is the opportunity to learn here? Because the moment you guys learn something, you get to coach that. Like, look at the value you'll learn and bring to the next person. So I know I feel like this is a preparation for the next big thing or the next level of me. And I would just offer that to everyone listening is, let this be the container that's kind of emptying out and preparing you for, what's next. And just, don't feel like you're holding on to a jungle gem, like trying to keep your fingers around it. Like, let go, you're safe, you're protected. And the moment you kind of release that energy, then new energy and new things can come in.
Yeah. Excellent. So I think we've kind of danced around this, but I just want to ask you kind of specifically outright, what do you think gets in the way for new coaches or business owners that keeps them off track?
I think, let alone, of course, my ego tricks. I think it's a lot in our mind and our head and our emotions and our blocks that we don't even know that we have. And because I know as an entrepreneur, I wake up every morning and I have me to deal with. It is me. It is my head. It is what I look in the mirror and say to myself or not. And so I know that that's primary because I feel like they want to go look at strategy and go like, how do I do this? And HW3 is another ego trick, by the way. When you have to know how to do something or what it's going to look like or when it's going to happen, I'm a recovering control freak. So HW3 was a big one for me. It's like, so if you can wake up in the morning and go, I'm here to be the vehicle for whatever I'm meant to do next. It's kind of like, use me. Right. And I believe in Gus, God, universe, spirit, and source. So Gus can tell me what to do next and I'll support it in flow. So we get in our own way through the thoughts and the emotions or the blocked emotions and such. And then I think we also look outside of ourselves for the answers. So we're online, we've got our thread, and our timeline and we're looking for what other people are doing. And going, well, that's the answer. Oh, maybe I should do a webinar. Oh, maybe I should do a summit. Oh, maybe I should do a live right. And it's like constantly looking outside of us for the strategic, there's so many strategies, but we're not like paying attention to what's right for us.
Right.
Or what feels good, and you can try them and see if they feel good. That's okay too. And it's okay if you do it a couple times and it feels okay. And then it doesn't feel good, you can shift, and so I think sometimes we get like short-sighted and we're focusing either on too many strategies because we're trying to throw spaghetti, right? And we're trying to figure it out, right? Instead of like, get a little quiet here and go, okay, I've got 5 choices. I can do all these different strategies. Does it feel good and exciting to do a summit and interview 40 people and put all the emails together and, like get that out there, get that message out? Or does it feel good to set up your podcast? Does it feel good to go quiet and write a book? Does it, what does it feel good? What's feeling good right now? Mm-hmm. And so I learned that the hard way, and it's been a very expensive lesson. I invested in, in something that no regrets, by the way, no regrets, but just it gave me the contrast. It showed me, wow, I chose that path and that investment because I was comparing myself to others and I was looking at their results going, well, that's how I get it. That's how I'm going to get it. And so then I go invest in, and it really never flowed or never worked. Mm-hmm. Now I got other huge benefits and things that I obviously now can take with me. Yeah. And it doesn't mean the strategy is not going to work for me. I was coming from ego. Mm-hmm. And so if now my higher self says, okay, it's time to do the strategy, it's the right thing to do now, then I can go do that. Right. But so it's not the strategy, and it doesn't mean it'll never work. The strategy works for certain people. Right. Or all of them, all people that try it, that are in the flow of it, right. For that matter, that are ready for it, that aren't in their own way. So mm-hmm. I hope that answers your question. I do believe it's a lot of, the mental chatter and the emotional blocks that actually are stopping us. It may sound, and you may want something different than that, but I think strategy is just so secondary, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, but on the other, just to do a little flip here,
Yes,
because
yes,
we're talking to new coaches,
for sure.
what would you kind of give them as a kind of a strategy that they could potentially align with? Of course, we're talking about alignment ultimately,
Yes, yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah. So, what's something that you could suggest that they could kind of test or try out that could potentially help them get clients and get into a flow and be aligned?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, visibility is key. If people don't know you exist, then you're not going to be known or hired. They don't know you're there. They don't know what result you can bring them, or solution, or problem solving that you can do. And so marketing, of course, for me and is about visibility. So what strategies, visibility wise, are you being called to do? So if you've had a little inspirational thought that says, wow, I should really do a Facebook Live, and then your ego takes over and says, I don't think so, right? Then that is the next strategy. So you can do speaking online. I definitely endorse speaking. And speak, of course, I was speaking in person month by month, but that all got shut down. So you can still speak online, and of course there's huge opportunities right now with virtual. And so if that's a call for you, like if that's the visibility that feels right for you, and you're recognizing if there's an egoic thought behind it, and you can just quiet that down and go, I know I'm uncomfortable, or I haven't done it before, but I'm going to do it anyway, then that be called to do that. Right. So I think anything that can get us visible, and speaking has just been huge. Like I said, I just added it up right before I got on the call with you. I was like, I've done a lot. How many have I done in the last like 3 or 4 weeks? And I've done 17 speaking gigs.
Wow.
Podcasts like this one. People have invited me to be like just an expert on a Facebook Live in their pages or their groups. I've shown up. I'm scheduled to be a speaker on the virtual eWomen chapters. Like eWomen Network is a big network, and I get to be, because of the situation, I get to be virtual in Australia. Like, say yes to that.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, look, you can still reach out to network groups and say, hey, can I be a speaker? But it's going to be virtual. It's going to be great.
Right.
So collaborations, and even if you just show up on some of the networking platforms and speak for 2 minutes, that too is visibility. And I think right now, just, to be connected as much as you can with community, with people, be visible in front of them, say yes to them. You never know where the next opportunity is going to come, or who's watching. And I honestly, the big opportunity I talked about, I think came from, I don't know exactly yet, but I believe it came from a podcast I was on and months ago. So be visible, and then you never know where it's going to lead. So that's my encouragement, is like right now, you take, and at the same time I can be on an hour with someone, and then I can go be by myself and do self-reflection and get my other work done, and set up my social media or whatever. But
Right.
I'm doing it from a place of inspired action, not like, well, everybody else is doing it, so I must need to do it too. Don't
Right.
come from that place. Come from those sparks of inspiration where it's like, man, I should do a Facebook Live about this topic. Somebody needs to hear this. Okay, don't hesitate. Go do that. Right. Yeah. And be visible in the process.
All right. Awesome. That's amazing. I agree with all of it. So
Yay.
that's great.
Not that you have to.
No, but I talk about structured action, but I do like the inspired action.
Yeah.
Action. Ultimately, it's action, right?
Yes.
And what we feel aligned to do. So I love that.
Yeah, aligned. I mean, I think I love that word, right? It's aligned. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Yes, for sure. So bravemasters.com is the website. And then you can find me on all the social media handles by Jena Rodriguez, 1N, Jena. And if somebody does want the ego tricks, the 14 ego tricks and the detachment method, you can totally download that at bravemasters.com/the method, right? So THE method, and you can have it for your processing and and reflection and all that. So it's really powerful.
I can't wait. I'm actually gonna download it, and I'm gonna put the link into our show notes for today.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time. I hope everybody enjoyed your wisdom, and I'm sure they did.
Thank you.
And I will talk to you soon. So thanks a lot, Jena. Thanks, guys, for listening, and I'll see you next episode. Bye-bye.